going then. It's all right. Don't worry, we'll go again. Uh, Welcome to the Nordic Mythology podcast. I'm Daniel Farrand, owner of the company Horns of Odin. And as always, before we jump into the show, I do have to give a quick plug to our Patreon because it is how we keep the lights on and it's how we keep the podcast going. So if you enjoyed this show and you enjoy one in particular, you can always get an extended version of that in the form of our Q&A with every guest every week. And that's where you get the chance to ask the guests your questions, whether it's in real time in the podcast or you could submit them before. And a lot of times these are just an extension of the main show. And there's a lot of questions that me and Mags have missed. And they do hold a lot of valuable information. And you get the whole back catalogue of those as well. So you don't just get from when you sign up forwards. There are, at this point, countless Q&A episodes that you can binge on and a lot of extra information in there. And if that's not enough, we also do a couple of bonus episodes in the form of story times. So today we're going to record one with Claire Moulet where she brings a usually somewhat weird and hilarious story from the sagas. And there are some weird stories in there. And we go through that and they're a little bit more lighthearted and a lot of fun. So you can get this all on our Patreon. It's Patreon.com/Nordic Mythology Podcast. And it starts from £3 a month, which is literally cheaper than buying me or Mags a cup of coffee once a month. So if you can, please go check that out. And if you can't, then even a 5-star rating, positive review, all those things just help people discover the podcast. But yeah, let's get into today's show. I'm looking forward to this one. So first, I will introduce my lovely co-host and in-house archaeologist, Margrethe Havgard. I'm going with it. Don't care. I've been saying it wrong.
Yeah.
I've been saying it wrong all this time, but we're gonna change from now on.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. You haven't really, because there's no way to pronounce my name right in English. So you've just been going for it, and it's been working great.
Yeah, I'm gonna try say the Norwegian way then. I'm gonna do better. Do better,
Sounds
be
great,
better. Go on.
Hi, everyone. Today we're joined by Martine Vargdottir or Vargdottir, who is, which I kind of loved, a self-proclaimed, I'd say, Viking potato. You do so much amazing stuff. You're a seamstress, you're a reenactor, you make beautiful videos on Instagram. So yeah, hi Martine, welcome. Do you want to tell us a little bit about what you do?
So yes, I'm very excited to be here as well. So, like I said, a potato is kind of the easiest way to explain it because I do a little bit of everything, and that's kind of what I pride myself in. That like in my Instagram, I do everything. I sew my own clothes. I drag all my equipment, a tripod, a camera, everything up into the mountains or wherever I want to go. And I do everything. I take my own pictures, my own videos, edit everything myself, and post. And yeah, it's kind of my hobby is like doing the whole process of it.
Mm-hmm. They are beautiful as well. I remember the first time a Scandinavian called me a potato. I took it to be quite offensive because I think to the to maybe the Brits and the Americans, like usually I think we associate potatoes as being quite lazy. So we have like the couch potato, that idea. But then in Scandinavia, it's quite a compliment. It's like it's almost like you can do a bit of everything. You're multi-skilled.
Like a jack of all trades kind of thing.
What?
It's like a jack of all trades kind of thing.
Yeah. And in the Lord of the Rings generation, I mean, a potato is kind of honorary title because everybody loves potatoes. So we're just gonna, yeah, we go with that because it's such a versatile thing that everybody loves.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's, I just remember I was like, is that a good thing? And they were like, yeah, it's a good thing. I'm like, just doesn't feel like it. I don't know. Okay, where should we start? Because I had a little scroll through your Instagram earlier that was my prep for this one. It's very easy. And the stuff you make is beautiful. I love your videos and you clearly understand that whole world as well. You understand how to like get the algorithm with those little clips and they're really like pretty and the music over them. So how did you get into all of that? Where did all of this start? Did it start with like the reenactment and then coming through into?
That's a combination, I would say. Because I started like sewing and making clothes when I was like going into videregående, which is like the
Like high school.
yeah, like a high school here. So I went to like a design and sewing school, and at that time I started making like medieval inspired, like fancy inspired clothes, and then I kind of quickly realized that it was Viking, that well, the Viking age was where I was most interested. And like at the same time, I kind of started exploring like taking pictures, and me and my father, we used to have these like trips every year where we go, and he's a photographer, so we kind of take pictures together and kind of have like our time together while exploring these kind of creative outlets. So it kind of developed at the same time, I would say. But then probably like a couple of years ago, I started like taking it a little bit more seriously, wanting to kind of actually hone my skill at photography and videography. And for a long time, I've been following Jonna Jinton. I don't know if you know her.
Yeah.
She makes beautiful videos from Sweden. She makes music, she makes jewelry and art and all these kinds of beautiful videos. So she was a very big inspiration for me to kind of see like what I could do. And actually, like 2 years ago, 1 year ago or something, she started following me back. So that was kind of like the climb for me, where I felt like I've made it. When like the girl I started out looking up to started following me back, that made it feel very very special.
Starstruck.
Yes, that was very starstruck. She actually saw the and liked the posts about this podcast as well. So that's really, really cool. So it's just kind of, yeah.
Hi, Yuna.
Yeah, hi, Yuna, if you're watching. So kind of just found like this way to express myself that I previously hadn't really thought about that much, and then it kind of became a passion of mine.
So cool. I'm gonna just start off there. It's so cool.
Yeah, no, it is. And I'm just trying to think of, you said earlier about like carrying all your stuff up and your little tripod and all that, and doing it all yourself. There's such a, I guess, a juxtaposition between the whole Viking age thing and like being in the very kind of traditional clothing and then having like a little tripod and filming it. But also you get all this beautiful and lovely content from it as well.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. Sometimes like I bring them up mountains, like I like to hike, and I bring all my stuff, and I'm kind of sometimes thinking about that fact that I'm like hiking in a Viking dress and Viking clothes, and maybe someone hasn't been wearing these kinds of clothes there for 1,000 of years. I don't know. And suddenly one day I'm kind of returning wearing the same kind of clothes, and then just bringing camera gear and all these kinds of things. But I think it's important to kind of find like a balance between, for me, it's very easy to kind of enjoy the area as well, because when I make my videos, it gives me a whole different perspective. It makes me look at the area in a whole different way. I see like all these kinds of like angles, and I see the details, and it kind of sharpens my focus of the area instead of being there and thinking about like anything else. I am just really focused about everything that's surrounding me at the moment. So it actually helps keep me kind of grounded and in this time and place that I am at the moment.
Is that because you're looking for the best shot and angle?
Yeah,
I guess so. You get a completely different appreciation for the landscape.
Yeah, and you look at light in a different way. You start like realizing what kind of like what the light actually does and what the sun actually does, and which different times of the day, and what the clouds look like. And there's so much like science behind like photography as well. And you kind of start like realizing like the details of nature and how everything kind of connects and makes like a good result.
Yeah, this photography is so much more difficult than I think people realize until they try to do it properly. I've tried taking pictures of like products and things, and
as soon as you go off the manual mode, then you discover that there's a lot more to it than just pressing a button.
Yeah, light's very important. You can get
Very
too much
important.
light. It can
I mean,
be
photography is just painting with light. It's just light painting.
It's a nice way to describe it.
yes, a very lovely way to put it. And yeah, it's so important, I think, that for people like you to do this kind of stuff, because it gives people who don't get the opportunity to go up into the wilderness in Norway, which is such a stunning environment, and they don't get the chance to, to because one thing going up there, and then it's one thing going up there in traditional clothing and kind of being in that whole place and seeing it how it could have been. And I think there's such a lovely thing to put out there for people who just don't get the opportunity, because there is such a big market or big area of people, particularly in the United States, who are into all of this stuff, who may never get the chance to visit Norway and see that landscape. And it's nice to get that out there. And I'm sure you get a ton of comments in that kind of vein.
Yeah, absolutely. I have followers from all over the world, and I get so many comments of people just like never having seen, like I live on an island on the south coast, so like I post some videos here as well on like the coastline, and people are writing like they've never seen the ocean before, they've never seen a mountain before, maybe possibly even seen a forest before, and a lot of people are writing that I kind of give a little bit of an escape and a place to kind of dream away to. And I think that makes me feel very good that I can kind of bring a little bit of that vision and that kind of emotion and everything that I feel when I see this, bring that kind of out to people and share it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not just also thinking about international crowds, but also, there are so many of us living with different kind of levels of ability to physically move about, and not all of us would be able to physically make those trips.
Mm-hmm.
But then being able to see them, at least, through videos like you make, is it wouldn't necessarily be the same, but at the same time it's like, oh, but then I can actually see it, and not just like in photographs, like in tourist brochures, but oh, she was actually there, and this is
Mm-hmm.
how she viewed it, which I think is a nice way when you're not necessarily able to leave your house in the same way.
Absolutely. And I think sometimes we also forget like how lucky we are. So many of the areas where you see me posting videos are actually like in a very like approachable place for most people, as long as you're able to kind of get in the cars. At least many of these areas are reachable, if you just kind of get to know where they are and get to know that they're
Right.
out there. So I think it's kind of, we forget sometimes, and I forget here definitely as well. Like when I go away for a long time and I get back home and I realize like how lucky I am to be able to live here and walk, like I can walk 3 minutes down to the ocean, and it's just
Oh,
like
wow.
sometimes I forget about these things, and
Mm-hmm.
making all these videos and kind of going out there and seeing it also through my camera kind of reminds me like this is not something everybody's able to see or feel or experience. And it kind of, yeah, it puts me back into like, remember that you're here right now, and just like feel it and exist in it for a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and obviously they weren't, or there wasn't, better English. There wasn't cameras in the Viking Age, so it's almost a little snapshot of that, because it's somebody in that traditional clothing that you could never have got for this couldn't ever exist because it just wasn't a thing. And do you think that, because you do reenactment, we spoke a little bit and we'll get on to it about the Viking village and spending time there. Do you think that plays into like, or helping with the photography side of thing and inspiration, having that kind of string to the bow, which then can allow you to maybe take pictures that are a little bit more, I guess, authentic to kind of what maybe could have been if Vikings had cameras? Would they have taken those pictures?
I mean, I obviously know that all the things I make is not like 100% historically accurate, because it's hard to be able to make it 100%
Mm-hmm.
historically accurate. But I do think that as we are now very individual, I think the Vikings also were very individual. With all the skills and creativity they had, they definitely had their different ways of doing things. So I like to use like the basics of like making the clothes and stuff that are kind of viewed as like correct nowadays, and I put like a little bit of a spin on it, and the way that I feel like everybody else possibly would have also made a spin on it.
Yeah.
And that kind of helps me feel connected to that time, but also like wearing these dresses and combining it with these areas, and maybe even places that people are forgotten that Vikings existed, and the fact that Vikings were the normal people, the farmers that lived all over this country, and kind of just connecting these like clothes to the areas, and just to the Norwegian nature, and kind of reminding ourselves that these are part of our roots here is absolutely a very, very big inspiration for me and all my videos.
Mm. I don't know, this might be a weird question. Uh, what's it like hiking in more traditional clothing? Because if it was me, I would probably wear modern clothing and take my stuff in like a backpack, and I'd cheat. I'd be a big fraud, and I'd put it all in my back. That's what I do, because I feel like that would be much more comfortable. But I guess like hiking, it gives you a bit more of an idea of what it could have been like having to
Absolutely.
move around
And
in.
for me, it varies. Like sometimes, depending on the weather. Like last year, we had so much snow, so I had to do the mountain hike in snow boots, like in the snowshoes. You know, the pads
Yep.
you walk on the snow with.
Yeah.
And and it was so, the snow was like completely rotten. So like every second step, I would go straight through. But I was determined. I was like, if I'm gonna have to climb this mountain on my knees, I will. It's not that far of a hike though, but it's like I was super determined. I do it every 17th of May,
Oh, nice.
the Norway's national day. So last year I brought the clothes in the backpack, and I had some other clothes because it was the only way to kind of get up there. But this year the weather was nice, so I wore my dresses, and I actually had like a separate dress in the backpack though. So it kind of depends like what my goal is, and especially now that I've kind of done that specific hike quite a few times with the dresses, then I kind of, depending on what I feel like I want to take pictures of, like if the weather is, and especially like it's in the May, and it's the top of the mountain where I go, it's 1,234 meters above sea level. So in the May, it could be pretty cold up there. Some of these years it's been frozen where you can feel your fingers at the end, and then you have to have some kind of other clothes underneath, or something like that, and then hiking up in clothes that might not be waterproof or something like that is not ideal. I mean, safety is obviously the first issue, to make sure that you're safe while doing it, and then it's kind of what end goal I have. Like if I have a vision, I usually have some kind of vision when I go out. Like I know what I want to capture, and I kind of know what I want to end up with, and then it depends what I bring for that vision though.
Mm-hmm.
But I do I very, very often, and especially this winter, we had like this legendary winter in Norway. We almost snowed in. It was like for 4 days or something. It was snowing like constantly, and winds up to like storm winds. So like the cars were completely buried. Like all the roads were almost closed. Like every school's closed. And when schools in Norway closed for snow, then it's a lot of snow.
British schools close for snow for.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh my God, a smattering.
In Norway, it's like if you can get to school, the schools are open. Like even if you have to like maybe dig a little path to get there, you do it. Come on, guys. It's just snow. It happens every winter. So when they actually, I know it's so funny. There's always like the broadcast here in Norway when like Heathrow like gets stopped because of snow or something, and we're all like hoity-toity about it, like look at the Brits, they can handle the snow.
Oh, we can.
This year we could not handle the snow. It was so much. It was
it was legendary, just like you said. It was insane.
And like this area got the most amount of snow as well.
Oh no.
So, like the roads here, like there were like they plowed like a road for like emergency cars and everything, but people were just skiing. So you would just see like families on their skis.
That's the most Norwegian thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, people were just like backpacks and everything going to the store to get their food, and it's just like it was adorable to watch. People were just like gathering around each other and kind of like that's when you feel like the community of people
Mm-hmm.
when like crisis like this happens, because people go door to door, make sure that elderly neighbors are able to get out of their
Yeah.
houses, make sure that they have their medication they need. And people like would come knocking on the door, like, do you guys need any help? Do you? And it's like it's so great to see that people kind of get together
Oh,
when you have to.
it's so beautiful, and it's such a shame that we don't remember it
Mm-hmm.
more, because we saw it so much through COVID. That was like a genuine, um especially
Community effort.
especially at the start. It was such a terrifying time where people we had no idea what was going to happen, and everybody kind of like came together and looked after each other and would go and care for their neighbors. And then now I feel a lot of that has been forgotten already, and people have kind of gone back to being quite selfish. And it's such a shame that we need these moments of kind of hardness and toughness
Races
to
to actually do it.
yeah to bring people together. It's such a shame that as people we need that.
Yeah.
But
Um,
yeah, that is a shame, but at least it does happen in crisis,
Yeah,
I
that's the
think.
most important thing. Yeah.
mhm.
At least it's
Yeah,
not gone forever.
no, I guess.
I
There's a
just wanted to put a
whole
positive spin on it.
there's a whole discussion about
Well, the
how
people skiing to the store is a quite positive spin on it.
Yeah. I mean, I just
yeah.
imagine like those kind of like potentially often problematic like commercials from the 50s of people just like, hey, I have to go get my milk on
Yeah.
my skis.
See, when you say
Yeah,
people
but
skiing,
what I was actually going to say when I started derailing about the winter was that we, after the snow, we had some time of like real proper cold that we don't usually get that much of here down south. So we had about like 20 minus for about 2 3 weeks, I think it might have been.
Oh
And
wow.
that's not often that we get that cold weather down here. So that was a great time for me to kind of test out my Viking gear, because I like to make sure that it's functional as well. I have some that are kind of obviously more aesthetic, and I like that as well. But I also like to have the ones that are very functional and can stand like nature and use it actually in nature. So I was out in my Viking clothes and kind of like layering with the wool. And even in 17 minus, I was comfortable, except my fingers. That was the issue. Or
mhm.
and at the time, my toes, because I didn't have Viking shoes for that amount of snow. So at that time, I used some winter boots. But since then, I've gotten some Sami like reindeer boots, which keep my toes nice and toasty. So now I'm kind
Oh,
of like all prepped for like 20 minus in Viking clothes.
oh,
That's
that's amazing.
amazing. That
It
like
is.
practical knowledge is so cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I think that's a very like probably been forgotten a lot the last few decades in Norway, but like the being able to actually dress for cold and being able to like stand like northern temperatures and climates is kind of engraved in our culture. So I think it's very shame if that kind of falls away.
Mm-hmm. I think it's probably because we have that safety net of knowing that even if we get caught short, it's not going to be for that long. We're going between one comfortable place to one comfortable place. For the most part, those short journeys, you're going to be fine. If it starts to rain, if the weather gets really bad, you don't have to prepare almost, and people have become very kind of lax with it. I'm terrible. When I go for a hike, I take coats for other people because I'm like, I know, especially for my friends, I'm like, I know you've not brought a coat because you've not brought a backpack with you. So I'm bringing two coats extra. I remember last time my friends laughed at me, but both of them ended up wearing the coats when it started raining. So I'm like,
Joke's on you.
yeah, who's laughing now? When you said about your fingers, that reminded me of a story I told Mags. It was on our little impromptu accidental episode we did last week, because I guess Jan couldn't make it on Sunday, and we rescheduled for Tuesday. And that was I drove from Oslo to
Listen to this, Martina. This is great. Listen to this. US and Norwegian. I wonder if you're gonna have the same experience that I knew what was coming. I was just in there like, yeah, well, yes.
So I drove from Oslo to Trondheim, and then a little bit of but it was in the dead of winter, so just before Christmas,
right?
Yeah, it was the eve of Christmas Eve. And I drove up through, so I didn't go like the scenic way around the edge. I went like straight up through because I just wanted to get there. And I needed fuel. And being a Brit, I was like, I'm in this nice warm car. I'm gonna get out and get fuel. And it was like minus 17, I think. It was the coldest temperature I've ever like physically been in.
And did
so I
you
got
put
out.
on your mittens?
No, I did not.
No.
So I got out and I was like shuffled out and like, I don't know, I had like a jumper on. And I picked the little thing up and to put it in to fill the car. And I've never felt cold on my hands like it. And it was so fast as well. And I think until you experience that cold, I don't think you can appreciate what it is, because I certainly didn't. And I just the way my fingers just kind of went numb. And I was like, oh shit, what am I gonna? I've got to like fill the car, but I need to go
touching metal in minus 17 degrees without any sort of protection. I mean, good on you that you didn't get frostbite.
Kind of get like a test run of how it's like to actually try to take some photos and videos in that temperatures, because that's when I have to put up the tripod and stuff like that, you know?
Yeah, how does your camera deal with the varying temperatures?
At that cold temperatures, it's not really happy, and ideally you shouldn't really have it out in that temperature. But usually I would only have it out for like a short amount of time and then pack it straight back up into my backpack. So it's not something that you would do for a long time, but like for a few minutes, that would be fine. But you usually notice that the batteries just die. And it's just it's like battery's out, and it's like, no, it's full, but it can't really send the power out of it.
Wow. The struggles of being an influencer.
Yeah. All piece and cake.
That's it. Yeah, people but it is one of those things where people see the finished image and it's like this stunning view, and sometimes, you know, if we're like playing the algorithm Instagram game, you know, you have to make like these little 7-second shots with like catchy music. So you have this hike, or you have this end product of 7 seconds, but it involves like a hike, could be in like quite uncomfortable clothing, or having to maybe get changed in very cold temperatures, having to carry all your stuff with you, struggling with the technology of the camera not working. You have all this stuff that goes into it for this short 7 seconds that then people go, yep, like that. Or sometimes just like scroll straight past. And it's this whole thing that goes into it.
And that's also one of the things I find kind of hilarious, because some of the videos I've put the most amount of effort in, where I've like carried like a lot of equipment up a mountain or something like that, and just like worked for ages, like worked for weeks on a dress or something like that. And I end up and I get the perfect shot of like what I wanted, like on top of the mountain. I post it, and then it doesn't reach anyone. And it's like, I obviously I don't do it for the end goal of like getting likes of it, but it's, of course, like when you put so much effort in it, you want to kind of, you hope that people see the amount of effort that you do, but people don't realize that what's behind it.
Yeah.
And then sometimes, like, I had this one video that I made in November of last year, which is like literally last second video. I had brought my camera out to take some photos in the snow, and then the snow started turning into rain, and I was just like, yeah, screw this, I'm going home. And I packed up my stuff. I was about to put it in the car, and then I saw like, oh, this light here is pretty nice. I'm just gonna take one quick video before I get in the car. And I took like a 7-second video or something. I posted it, and that is the one on my account, on my profile, with 11 million views.
Typical, isn't it?
It's like typical. It's like the one video that I probably wouldn't have taken unless I was just like, you know what, I'm already wet. Let's do it.
It is so frustrating, and there is something to be said about that, like just the sheer head fuck that is Instagram
Yeah.
because they say you can spend so much time on this on what you feel is like the perfect video based on like all your history. You think
Yeah.
you're ticking all the boxes. You've done the analysis. You're like, this worked last time. I'm gonna do this, and then it just for whatever reason, whether it doesn't get traction or Instagram just doesn't like show it to the right amount of people, and it is disheartening. Whether you do it for the views or you just do it because you love doing it, it's like any form of art. If you put it out into the world, you of course you want it to be viewed and appreciated. That's part of art. So then when it doesn't, it is very kind of, and it can play with emotions a lot.
Yeah, and I think it's a kind of like a basic human need to kind of be seen and be appreciated. So I think that's we've kind of distorted it a little bit, of course, with like the social media and wanting to kind of be perceived by much more people than we actually need. But it's yeah, if you put a lot of work into it, you obviously want people to like you'd want the rewards to say it like that to kind of
Mm-hmm.
add up to the effort.
Yeah.
But
It is so, isn't it? It just gives
yeah,
you that little when you get those. It's we're in such a weird time that like those little virtual likes do
yeah,
give you such like a little serotonin boost of like, yay, this was appreciated, and it is like a measure you can kind of
yeah.
follow. You said before. Oh, go on. Sorry.
No, it's just that, of course, it's become like this competition on like getting the most amount of these little fictional likes back. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And you always want to beat the one before. So like you
yeah.
have like the 11 million, and it's like I can always do better than that.
Honestly, I got enough from that one. I think it's yeah.
Good on you.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I reached a very specific weird demographic with that video. That it ended up like bringing a lot of harassment with just from that video. Or
Mm.
Oh,
weirdly enough, it's a completely decent video. It's just like a 6 second clip of like me looking up at the snow, and I'm completely dressed like I am now. But yeah, apparently people managed to turn that into a surprisingly sexual video without any indication that it was. So yeah,
people
I mean, I
people
prefer
suck.
getting like 10,000 views of people that are actually interested in what I do compared to that.
Hmm. I think the problem is when you send something to 11 million people, there's just that's a lot of people. So you think if you had 100 people in a room, the chances are one of them is just a dickhead.
Yeah.
So you times that by a factor of I'm going to try to do some shitty little maths here, but what 100,000? You're going to have like at least 100,000 dickheads in that, and
I,
unfortunately,
I felt that.
yeah.
It was quite ridiculous actually. It was at
So
that time
unfortunate though that there has to be like
Hmm.
that ratio.
Yeah.
it was so like the results from that video was kind of weird because I ended up having to block the word pink on my account because people were commenting on the fact that apparently my nose was pink, which because it was like
Cold.
yeah, it was
Yeah.
really, really cold. And people were comparing like talking about which color my
Oh,
yeah.
fuck's sake.
So I had to
People
block the word pink just because
suck. Oh
that was
my
In what
God.
obviously
world is
not
that like necessary?
in what world is that like a logical step? Like
Because
so
people live in this little
yeah.
fucking I'm gonna have a rant in a minute. But people live in
Here
this
we go.
little
Prepare yourself, Martine.
no, dude, because I had something on a much smaller scale the other day, but uh, people live in this little bubble where they think it's acceptable to say whatever the fuck they want online, and it is infuriating because there are no consequences to like what you say. There people say things that they would never say, and it's usually and often cases not just um blank troll accounts. It's people with very respectable jobs that just will say the wildest shit because they just think it's okay, and there's no no repercussions, no comeuppance for it, and it's
Because it's abstract, right? You don't have to deal
mhm,
with that person in front of you in real life, having to see the consequences of your words.
mhm.
I think also like Instagram kind of made us blind to like what being like available online kind of opens you up to and like what how people think it's acceptable to kind of treat you just because you're posting videos on
Yeah.
Instagram. For me, like I post videos because that is a creative outlet for me because I enjoy the process of sewing the clothes, I enjoy the process of finding beautiful locations, and I enjoy the process of editing videos and posting them and finding the correct music. And I spend like hours on these things because it's something I find to be fun. And then you end up getting like tons of messages of people, like it could be anything. People people could be like sexually harassing you, people could be calling you fat, people could be just commenting like, oh, you're just doing it for likes. And it's just like, do you not realize that it's a real person just sitting here just
Yeah.
doing their hobby? Like I think people get blind, especially when you have like a video that reaches like 11 million people. They're like, oh, this person is famous, blah blah blah. And I was like, I'm just me. I'm still just a regular person. I'm still just doing my hobby and just posting my videos.
The thing is, for the most part, it's just jealousy on such a big scale, because I hate that whole you're just doing it for likes. It's like, well, so is no, if you boil it down to into its most reduced form, that's what everybody on fucking Instagram is doing. Because if it wasn't for the likes, then why don't you just send those pictures to your friends and family personally on WhatsApp? You don't have to put them on a public profile. You're doing it because you want other people to see it and then people to appreciate it. And some people do it on a small scale, and some people do it on a bigger scale. So if you do it for the likes, so fucking what? Like, that's the whole point of it.
Yeah. Have as much fun as you want.
So I hate this whole thing as if that's like a negative thing. It's like, so what? You're doing a positive thing, and you're bringing like nice, like this beautiful art form and these beautiful images into people's lives. And people are like, no, you're doing it for the likes. So what? So what? Like, even it, like, as if there has to be some deep meaning to everything that everybody does, or it doesn't count.
It's obviously okay to just have fun. And I think we kind of we forget about that as well. But I mean, we forget about that regarding like everything. Everything has to be kind of monetized, and you have to earn something to do anything. So everybody's like, if you like to be to sing or something, you have to be good at it instead of just singing because you want to sing. It's like
because it's fun and you enjoy it.
Yeah.
So people kind of forget that these basic human things to do, like for like the Viking things, drumming, singing, dancing, all these kinds of things. They're just basic human actions that we enjoy, and they're engraved in us. And like if you play a drum beat or something, you will see most children, like toddlers and babies, they will start dancing because it's engraved in us. It's something that we need to do. And then we kind of turn it around and we decide like, oh no, if you're going to do this, you have to be very good at it so you can make money on it. And it's like, why? Can't I just
stage capitalism? God damn it!
Yeah.
And if you're not good at it, we're going to tell you really horribly that you're not good at it.
Exactly.
And you just have to deal with the fact that you're getting that rebuke. But I also hate that argument that since you've decided to put yourself on these platforms or whatever the medium might be, then you just kind of have to deal with the consequences in heavy quotation marks. I'm saying consequences in heavy quotation marks. And I feel like it's a very similar argument to what was used like in especially like the early 2000s with the way celebrities were treated in the media, like in tabloid media, that, oh, well, since you've chosen to be an actress, you just kind of have to deal with the fact that this is your life. And I'm like, they're doing a job that is very much more exposed than other people's jobs. So why is then this a necessary side effect of having that job?
Yeah.
Why? And it's the same thing with social media today. Why do you have to just deal with one thing is accepting that, yeah, this sucks and I wish it wasn't like this, but this is my reality. Another thing is just casually letting it stay that way because this is a part of it. I'm furiously against that type of argument because it's so lazy and it kind of diminishes all forms of responsibility and accountability for just flat out shitty behavior.
It's because everybody thinks that everything they have to say is so very important. And I'm sorry, this might sound really shitty, but unfortunately, not everything everybody has to say is really important. And sometimes in life, you don't like things. So if you don't like it, just scroll the fuck past and the next video will come up. And we live in that cycle where that just happens. But also, there's a big difference between somebody maybe saying, I like the post, but here's a little bit of constructive criticism. This is what I don't like. Like that's one thing, and that's acceptable. Like that's just maybe from like another artist or just from anybody. It's like this. You can just say like, I like your other videos, love your work, but this one maybe just didn't work for me. That is one thing. But when it's just like nastiness for nastiness sake, or just like sexual, or on the other side, then demeaning. It's like there is just no benefit for it other than that person in that one little moment to make themselves feel a little bit better, probably about their own shitty life, to go, ha, got her. Well, fuck off, you didn't.
It always kind of baffles me how someone wants to actually spend their time doing that, because it's just, do you really know how to have anything better to do?
No. So
No.
my rant. So back to my little rant I wanted to rant before, really quickly. So I did a little video the other day. So we started selling these little milliners that we made. Like a friend of mine designed them. And we had like them wax cast and made. And I made a little video about how we're donating 10% of them to like a men's health charity, because I've spoken openly about like my own stuff. And so we were like, yeah, we're going to donate 10% of everyone's sold to a men's health charity. I put it out there. Still get criticism. Still get shit from people. Still get like, oh well, they made this, or like, somebody was on about, oh well, the Vikings like converted to Christianity, so why you got a millionaire? Like, are you fucking missing the whole point of this? Like there's a point to this post, and it's just trying to do something nice. How can you still pick apart that?
What's it saying? It's the road to hell is paved with good intentions, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And also I find that like sometimes those types of comments are slightly revealing about the poster as well. It's like, oh, so you decided to just pick up on this very narrow, slim, and probably maybe inaccurate view of things, and decided to go with that as a falsely objective truth about what's going on.
Yeah, they didn't even. It's when people pick up on one point, or one point that's not even in the post, but then it's like their one little thing that they like to probably say on a lot of things. So they ignore the rest of it and the context and the message and the meaning. They just go, but this one little thing, those Vikings converted to Christianity. And I'm like, well, that's not anything to do with this post. We can have that conversation if you want, but there's nothing to do with this. But okay, before we've gone way off track. You said earlier about how some of the clothes were more aesthetic versus actual the word's falling out of my head. Practical.
Oh yeah.
What's the difference? How does that work?
Well, the main kind of difference that I mean regarding to that is the fact that the most aesthetic dresses I have are like ridiculously wide down at the, what do you call it? Like
the front or the skirt?
Like the skirt. Yeah, thank you. So like the entire skirt is very, very wide and very long. So it's to the ground basically and super wide. So it's not practical for day-to-day use, where you would like be walking around in grass or anything that would it would just make it really, really dirty and things like that. But that is one of the dresses that I would like to use for videos, where it's really nice and super flowy in the wind and stuff like that. So that is kind of the main difference of like practical and non-practical.
Oh, okay. I was wondering whether it was like a fabric type.
Well, yes. I mean, like the one I'm wearing right now was actually a dress that I kind of had to make like very quickly. So this is like a linen viscose mix. So that's like not historically accurate, of course. So usually I would only use linen and wool to make my dresses, but occasionally, because of kind of what's available and what my needs are at the time, I would sometimes have to use other kinds of fabrics. As long as it's some kind of linen or something like that, I would do that. Yeah.
But I find that super, super interesting though, how you're so aware of the differences. Like, no, but like in a complimentary way, where you're like, okay, well, I'm gonna make these compromises, but I'm aware that this is for aesthetics or for this specific purpose, while I decide to make these others for this more kind of maybe historical accuracy leaning type purpose?
Because I usually have like a very specific goal with any kind of dress I make. It kind of depends. Like sometimes I like to make a very specific dress for possibly like staying out in snow, staying out in winter time, hiking in cold weather. And then I would make like then it would be a thick woolen dress with like a shorter length that would probably go somewhere around the knees, and flexibility and space to keep kind of warmth inside the garments. And other times I would have the goal of having something that's light and flowy for summer, that's kind of versatile, that I can use both like separately alone and under other clothes. It's kind of mostly it's kind of with a like an end goal at the end. And this one
Mhm.
actually was because of a market that I knew that I was going to have to be part of, like some wrestling. So I actually made one that I kind of didn't plan on being important to me. So I was
Oh,
kind of making
nice.
one that could be like broken for like one festival, but it ended up like being kind of a dress I like a lot. So
Oh, nice.
Nice.
Do you make to sell or just for yourself?
sometimes it kind of depends what I'm like, what I have the capacity to do. But right now I have some projects for some friends for the Midgardsblot, one of the festivals I go to.
Oh, okay, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're hopefully going to be there this year.
Oh, awesome. Then we have to meet
Um,
up.
I didn't make it last year, but the year before I was there, and hopefully we'll be there this year.
I'm bringing my
Um,
Viking tent, so you'll find me in the village.
oh, nice. Oh, nice.
Fun.
I
I'm not going to be there for the festival, but I'll be there for the Midgard talks.
Ooh, nice. Then maybe we get to meet as well.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
Yeah. I was asking because I was just thinking I could really use a tunic. I think I would
Yeah, but I mean,
suit
we can talk. Maybe I think maybe if you're okay with the machine sewn one, I think I could squeeze it into the schedule.
Yeah, I'm not too precious about that. Which actually goes on to what I was going to say. I mean, let's talk about like another group of people who like to get upset easy, and that would be reenactors around clothing and their accuracies. So I feel like I'm just taking
Your
shots at everyone
positive,
today.
your
I've
positive spins are off the charts today, then.
I've co- I've come in with just pure heat for everyone today. So
Maybe we should invest, maybe we should do like a crowdsourcing kind of investment of like a fan if you're too hot today, like just to kind of lower your temperature a little bit.
no, no, everyone's just getting it. But I, because I have seen amongst like reenactors when it comes to clothing, like people get really, really picky about like stitch count, like how many, like if you're gonna make a certain thing, it has to have like a certain amount of like stitches between like point A and point B,
Um,
and like the real like anal details about it. I'm like, you don't understand people because I guarantee not everyone in the Viking Age was like, you better have 21 stitches between like the neck and the
Can
shoulder,
I
if that's
put
the
a
thing.
slightly different spin on it while trying to say the same thing? That it seems that there are a lot of differing opinions on the craft of making Viking Age clothing and sewn items. And what is your experience with that, Martina?
You're so diplomatic.
Yes, that is my job.
well, it's very true what you're saying. It's always up for discussion, like the whole sewing thing. And for me, like I said before, I think it's very important to remember that Vikings were individuals, just like us. They would have their own ways of doing things. They, of course, would follow like the trends and styles and what's available and what's kind of functional at the time, but there would also be variations in that line of area. And it's kind of like a constant discussion among all the reenactment groups and like the people in general of like whether they use leather and furs and stuff like that, because we haven't found any like clothes made of these materials. And some people are like very strict and saying like, no, we haven't found it, so it doesn't exist. And then you have the people that are saying like, no, obviously it exists. And I'm kind of like in between there, where I'm saying like, if it's available at the time and indigenous people at the time that lived in areas similar to these people did it, then they possibly did it and most likely did it as well. So if indigenous people do it and they had contact with these indigenous groups, they almost 100% would have learned from these
Mm.
groups and had the same techniques and materials available. So that's kind of what I think. Like it's, of course, we have to separate from like what's like what I would like put in a museum, I would not put any of my dresses in a museum and say that these are Viking accurate dresses. I would say that they are based on the like the styles and the ways they were made in that time, and I hand sew them, all these things. But I would never say that they're 100% correct because we don't know.
Yeah.
And we have more complete founds from like medieval ages, like after the Viking Age, and we have some finds from before, and then we can we have to use a little bit of connection to kind of make it work to actually have complete outfits to wear. Otherwise, all the Viking reenactors would end up wearing 2 outfits.
I really, really like that because it's also about experimenting, right? And it's like knowing a fair amount about tools that were available and types of material that were available, like knowing that, you know, they had wool, we know they had linen, and kind of basing stuff off of that, and then having it be maybe not authentic in the sense that this is a replica of a specific find, but this is inspired by all these different facts that we know. And just to come in with the archaeologist's point of view here, that I mean, there is a reason why we don't have a wardrobe for Viking Age fashion, because the soil here in Scandinavia, for the most part, especially in Norway, the conditions aren't optimal for preserving that kind of organic material that textile would be. So even though we might have a lot of, you know, human remains and stuff, there are extremely few cases of complete garments and complete fashions. So in a sense, that means that we don't have a complete set of data cases to give us knowledge about the different types of garments people would wear at different occasions and that type of stuff. So I really like that attitude. I think that's really cool.
I think I'm not gonna like don't come at me if I'm like 100% wrong here, but I do believe that one of the only finds we have of like the apron dresses are only from like the top portion, like right beneath the turtle brooches. I think that's actually some of the only finds we have showing, or like actual finds of apron dresses. So
I think you're correct in that.
Yeah, so out of like perhaps like 5 centimeters of garment or like a fabric, we're supposed to make out what this garment looked like, and it's impossible. You have to kind of add out, and then we have these figurines. That's a lot of I think a lot of people take some inspiration from these, the tiny gold figurines.
But they're also impossible to. I mean, they're not.
You can't really, because it's hard to shape out a proper dress in a little metal figurine.
Yeah, sure, but it's like
2 centimeters tall. So, but of course, like you need to take all these kind of small pieces of crumbs you have and kind of add it together. And that's like, this is a logical way to do it. And then you can also look at things that have been found like before and after, and kind of add like a logical result together. That's kind of all we can do.
Oh, 100%. Because I think using those figurines as a way to be inspired is great. But I would say, just from drawing stuff like that, trying to make sense of the motifs, that I would assume, again, I'm not a seamstress, I'm not great at sewing, but I would assume that there isn't enough detail in those depictions to make, or to give you really kind of detailed information about how things were sewn or how they were worn. Also because they're often from the side, right? They're often viewed. And so, I mean, we all know that when you wear a jacket, if you turn to your side in the mirror, it's going to look different.
No, but I think one of the important things we can learn from these figurines is kind of length, like what kind of layering they would use, because a lot of these figurines have a lot of layers, and they would could give like a hint to what kind of layers they would wear. Like it's quite popular to wear like a linen serk, like a sark, plain dress, and smokker, like the apron dress, as like a full outfit. And this could kind of indicate whether this is a correct layering or if we're just actually wearing underwear in public.
Oh, imagine if we had a time machine, they all came back and they were just laughing at us like, oh my
God.
That's
actually the point of view of quite a lot of people. Because like historically, like the base dress is historically mostly underwear. So
Mhm.
a lot of people would argue that this could just be us wearing our underwear out in public. But
No wonder you got all those comments on your video.
yeah, that's why.
That's why.
We solved it now.
They're flaunting my underwear. That's why.
Yeah, they was like, oh my gosh, out here in her underwear, just walking around in -20.
I think also that's kind of when you have to look into like the climate and how like, when you're at a market or when you're staying at like a Viking village for an amount of time, you kind of learn what's functional and then layering like in the summertime, like today, for me to be wearing like wool or layer any kind more than just a plain Viking like linen dress would not be breathable and super uncomfortable. And
Yeah.
I would definitely not be able to work the fields in more clothes than I am wearing right now. So I think like for practical reasons, I think that's also very important to kind of remember though.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's definitely how it's such a fascinating way to like learn how things were done
Hmm.
because it is living history.
Yeah.
Is it experimental archaeology? Am I right in
So
saying
I
that?
would, I would, I
what it
would
is?
consider it experimental archaeology, 100%.
Nice, I got that
Yeah.
right.
Now it sounds so much more thoughtful when you say it like that as well. So let's go with that.
Yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, because you're investigating types of knowledge, right? And types of knowledge production.
Especially say like in the wintertime, I would absolutely say that's experimental with like how if you're able to kind of dress warm enough and to keep like the cold out and the snow and everything and to make sure that the garment is still functional and wearable and everything, that's absolutely, I would call it that. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what they would have had to do. Okay, let's wrap up the main show and then we can do a Q&A and let people ask you some questions because I know we're a little bit short on time. I did want to quickly finish on during that conversation I unlocked a memory of why I'm so I've got such animosity towards the reenactment clothing people, and that is because
Wow. Make sure you're not too general and broad now, Dan.
no,
Give people the benefit of the doubt here.
no,
Come on.
no, it's towards certain people.
All right. Okay, cool. Go ahead.
So I remember when I first started hornsboarding, and we can finish on this little story. So when I first started hornsboarding, we used to dress up in, I would say, I thought it was probably quite authentic clothing. Maybe it's not. I don't know. I think it was just like an under tunic and over and a tunic over, like a belt. You know, it was probably not too far off. And I remember I went to a show and my head was cold, and I was like, I want a nail-bound hat. So I was like, that would be cool. I want a nail-bound hat. Why not? They look cool. It's gonna keep my little head nice and toasty. So what? So I found a little Facebook group and I typed in there and I was like, you know, I'd like a little know about how can I like figure out how to make it. And then I just got laughed at. Like everybody laughed at me, made fun of me because they were like, they're just for women. Only women wore like now-bound hats.
We don't know anything
I
about
know.
that.
But they were also like super picky because they were like historically they've only been found in like women graves or whatever. It's like, and I was like, yeah, but maybe this like very early, and I was like, well, you don't know, like maybe a guy just borrowed his wife's fucking hat because his head was cold, or like maybe his wife made him a now-bound hat. Like it's ridiculous to say that only like this like perfectly sensible way to keep your head warm was only worn by women, and I just got ridiculed and laughed at, and it's stuck with me ever since. So now I've just been like against that. I'm like, fuck you guys, you got me all those years ago.
It's like you need a hood instead, so you won't be modeled.
Yeah. Yeah, hoods are pretty cool, but which one? All I wanted was a little hat, and then I got laughed at, and it just stuck with me.
Oh.
The
Right?
extra trauma. That's.
I know I got bullied in the Facebook group. That's probably why I've got such a vengeance against them now.
Oh.
I know. All right.
I mean, to legitimize your wish, I also just want to point out that something only been found in certain types of graves does not necessarily indicate what it was used for in daily life. It indicates what was considered important to give a person who had passed on. So, just to give you a little bit of affirmation on that, it just like those types of hats just being, I don't know anything about this specifically, but if it is the case that those types of hats are only found in female graves, does not mean that people of the male gender did not use them in real life, because burials are made by living people for dead people. It doesn't really tell us all that much about daily life, but we can extrapolate things. So, extrapolate.
Yeah. Future Dan wishes he could go back and give him a piece of his mind. All right, let's wrap this up. Martina, where can people find you, follow you? Yeah, all the best ways.
Mainly Instagram. I go by Vargdottir. It means wolf daughter. So that's usually where you'll find me.
Perfect. Mags.
It is also on Instagram, Archeomags as usual, Archeo with a K.
Perfect. And same for me. I haven't posted in ages, but it's Daniel_Farrand1. For me personally, if you want a little bit more about me, some sort of history videos I post now and then, and Rocco mainly on my stories, or Horns of Odin for the business, and then obviously Nordic Mythology podcast across the board on YouTube. If you would like to see all our pretty faces, you can watch them on YouTube. And I think that's about it. Yeah, if you want more of this chat, I've really enjoyed this. This one's been like a lot of fun. It's a little bit more lighthearted than some of our episodes, but it's been a lot of fun. I've enjoyed having a good laugh and also ranting and getting on my little soapbox. So if you want more of that, we're going to do a little Q&A so you can get an extension of that. But Martina, thank you very, very much. I've thoroughly enjoyed this.
This was so much fun. It was so much fun having you on.
I can be on another time as well.
Oh, please. Yeah, please.
We can make that happen. Can I actually just close off the episode by saying one thing? Because I've been thinking about this for the past like 4 episodes and I've forgotten. I just want to do a quick shout out to my mom and dad who have apparently started listening to the podcast.
Oh, you told me this.
Yes, and I keep forgetting every time we record, but I just want to say, hi, Mom. Hi, Dad. Hope you're enjoying this.
Oh, so that puts me under so much pressure because I just quickly like flashed back all the ridiculous things that I've said and the amount of times I've swore in this episode. So
The
I
thing
do
is,
apologize, Mags's mum and dad, because you did tell me they were people of the faith as well, so I feel extra bad.
don't feel bad, because I think we should be chill enough to do our own thing, and then they can have their own opinions about it. And if they want to talk to me about it, they can. But I've also, when Mom told me that they've started listening to it, I was like, oh shit, they probably heard how much I curse. But I think as long as I don't do it to their face, they're okay with it.
Okay. Okay, wonderful. So maybe don't watch on YouTube and see you visually swearing. Well,
Thank you again, Martina. This was awesome, and we'd love to have you back.
Yeah, please do. Thank you very much.